All right, go ahead and have a seat over here to my left.
Sir, would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
I'm Robert Krautheim.
And where do you currently work?
I currently work at the Sandra Day O'Connor Federal Courthouse
Back in 2019, where were you working?
as a Chandler police officer in Chandler, Arizona.
How long did you work for the Chandler Police Department?
25 years.
When did you retire?
About 3 years ago, February.
When you were working there in July of 2019, what were your duties at that time?
I was a patrol officer. I was responding to calls for service.
Okay. And do you recall what your shift was at that time?
It was a day shift. I think I start my shift at 6 and end at 4.
Were you working patrol for Chandler Police Department on July 11th of 2019 at about 8:36 a.m.?
I was.
Were you dispatched to 5531 South Four Peaks Place in Chandler, Maricopa County, Arizona?
Yes.
What were you dispatched for?
A shooting that had just occurred.
Based upon the information that was, well, let me ask you this. When you are arriving to a scene, do you get information relayed to you about this call?
I do.
Why is that?
The call taker is asking the person on the phone what's going on, where it is, who's there, just basic information. And then dispatch relays that information to me as I'm driving to the call for service.
Is that so you have a better idea about what you're walking into?
Yes, it's on a computer, but verbally, the stuff that's really pertinent before I arrive is just verbally done over the air.
So when you were arriving on the scene, did you think this shooting had just occurred?
I did.
When you got to this 5531 South Four Peaks, were there any other officers on scene yet?
Yeah, Officer Wiz was there.
Is that Officer Wiersbe?
Yes, I'm sorry, I apologize.
What were you wearing?
Patrol outfit, basically a patrol uniform, police uniform, body-worn camera.
And back then, where was your body-worn camera?
At the time, it was a lipstick camera, so part of it was here, but the camera's actually on my right shoulder.
Okay. And was that on and recording as you sort of arrived on scene and while you were present there?
Yeah, I started recording while I was driving there.
Okay. When you arrived, did you know whether or not the 911 caller was still on the phone?
Yeah, she was still on the phone.
And when you were talking with dispatch, did you arrange to have this person come out, or did Officer Wiersbe do that?
Yes, dispatch advised him to come out of the home without anything and hands up in the air. That's kind of standard.
And did he comply with that?
He did.
What exit did he come out of?
At the front door.
Okay. Can you describe sort of his appearance and demeanor as you observed him coming out of the house?
His clothes were clean. He was calm, not emotional at all. Different than what I would have anticipated.
When he first exited, did you notice any injuries to him?
He was holding, it was a white rag at the time. It was just kind of red and white. He was holding on the back of his head.
When he first exited or later?
As he's coming out of the house.
Did you notice any difficulty walking or talking when you first had contact with him?
No.
Any difficulty sitting or standing?
No.
Did you learn the name of this person?
I did.
What was his name?
Alex Cox.
Did you observe him sweating at all when he first came out?
No.
Any type of jitters?
No.
Any uneven or broken voice as he's talking to you?
No.
At some point, did you notice an injury to him?
I did.
And where was it?
On the back of his head, towards his right side.
And what did you see?
I articulated my written report as about an inch laceration, a small like knot, and it was bleeding a little bit.
fix that. Alex Cox patting or rubbing the back of his head with some sort of rag or paper towel.
Yes,
Without going into what was said, did you talk with him?
I did.
Did you offer him medical treatment?
I did.
Did he ask for medical treatment?
He did not.
Was there anything about his talking with you or actions that made you concerned that you thought you should override that?
Yes.
Let me make sure you understood. Was there anything about what you observed with Alex Cox talking or his ability to move that made you think you should override his decision to not get treatment, and you thought, oh, he better get treatment, he's so bad off?
Oh, zero, none.
At some point while you were talking with Alex Cox, did you see a female and a teenager show up at the scene?
I did.
And did you eventually go speak with those two?
I did.
Where did you speak with them?
Just on the other side of the street, they had parked right across from the house.
Did you speak with the adult female?
I did.
Did you ask for a driver's license to identify her?
I did.
And who was that person?
Lori Vallow.
Do you see Lori Vallow in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you point her out and tell us what she is wearing for the record?
She's at the defense table wearing a white shirt underneath looks like a black jacket.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant.
Shall.
When you went to speak with Lori Vallow, did you know that the deceased person in the house was her husband?
I did.
When you went to speak with Lori Vallow, did you ask her whether or not the individual inside her husband lived there?
I did not ask her that.
Can you describe for us Lori Vallow's demeanor as you were interacting with her?
Calm, nonchalant, just kind of a matter of fact, just talking to me as I'm talking to you now.
When you went to speak with Lori Vallow, can you tell us approximately how many police cars were parked around there?
Well, I don't know either myself. I know there was at least mine and Officer Wiz's. There's a fire truck there. I think there was an ambulance there, and I think there may have been another police car. I can't remember, but there was a lot of emergency vehicles just near the home itself.
And was her brother Alex Cox sitting sort of in view of her?
Literally across the street, like the desk of the prosecutor would be her car. This is the street, and I had Alex seated right on the sidewalk.
When she first arrived, did she actually walk up to where you were with Alex Cox?
Yes, she did.
And you asked her to go back to the other side of the street?
I did.
Did she ever ask you how her brother was doing?
No.
Did she ever ask you if her brother needed medical attention from being hit by a bat?
No.
Did she ever ask you why there were so many police cars around the neighborhood?
No.
Did she ask you why there was a fire truck parked in front of her house?
No.
So other than gathering basic information, did you really talk to her about anything else?
No.
And were you wearing that body-worn camera when you had contact with her?
I did.
After you talked with Lori Vallow, did you go back and stand near Alex Cox again?
Yes.
If I can have my paralegal go up and show him exhibit number 1. Do you recognize exhibit number 1?
I do.
Is that a copy of your body cam footage from July 11th of 2019?
It is.
Is it missing the audio other than during your interaction with Lori Vallow?
Correct, yes.
And did you initially identify that previously as your body cam?
I did.
State will move to admit exhibit number 1.
Any objection to exhibit number 1? Any
No
objection to
No objection.
exhibit 1's admitted?
And if we could publish it.
Go ahead.
So is this you responding to the scene?
Correct.
And was your camera flipped upside down initially?
Well, the camera wasn't, the orientation of the software was.
So that's why we see the axon and stuff in the bottom corner upside down.
That is correct.
So this was a gated community?
It was.
As you're driving, did you go by the fire truck here?
I did.
And is it standard for fire to stage a little ways away from the scene when it's a shooting?
Yes.
Why is that?
So they could respond quickly.
Do they want you to clear the residence first before they show up?
Yeah, it needs to be safe for the firemen. We had to make sure there was no one else in the house that was armed or in the area.
And as you're arriving, is the person, the shooter, still inside the house?
I can't recollect. I think he was at the door right now or just coming out to the door.
Why did you pull your weapon?
I was just told somebody killed somebody, so yeah, for my safety, I wanted to make sure I rendered him safe before I put my gun away. It was a threat to me.
So when he came out, he had both his hands up in the air?
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, nothing touching his head yet? No?
Correct.
Now, did you stay out with him while Officer Worsbicky went inside?
I did.
While you're talking with him during this whole time, at this point, he still hasn't brought anything out to try to place on his injury.
Correct.
When he came out, did he already have those sunglasses on the top of his head?
He did.
Why did you have him move over here?
I actually physically couldn't hear him. Fire trucks are incredibly loud, so I had to move away.
The fire had already pulled up to now go inside the residence.
Correct.
And can you kind of see them in the corner going in?
Yes.
Did you learn whose truck that was in the driveway?
I don't recollect right now whose truck it is. I think it's his, but I'm not sure.
And who is that other officer there?
That's Officer Wizbeski. Sorry, I've been calling him Wiz since I've known him.
Shorter. Were you initially trying to control the scene yourself, sort of helping to tell people where to go and what to do?
Oh, absolutely. My head's on kind of a swivel. I'm always kind of looking around like people just walk up to you and asking what's going on. And got to make sure no one's going to walk up to the house. So you just try to keep it as pristine as you can.
So we see him putting his head now, or his hand on the back of his head, correct?
Yes.
And you indicated there's a fire truck there. You asked him if he wanted any medical attention,
I did.
and he declined it.
He refused.
Who are those?
That's Lori Vallow and her daughter.
So when you said across the street, we just saw a red SUV. Is that what you're talking about?
Correct.
So at this point, did you know the name of the individual inside the residence?
Yes.
And who was that?
Charles Vallow.
And did you at this point understand who that woman was that walked up?
Yes.
And who did you believe she was?
His wife.
Normally when someone is shot and killed, is there a team of detectives and crime scene specialists who will come out to handle the case?
Yes.
And are you, as patrol officers, sort of stuck with taking care of it until they arrive?
Yeah, we deal with the burning, bleeding, and blowing up stuff. Anything that takes time and a lot more in-depth stuff, that's what the detectives do.
And then what do we see here that just came up?
Looks like an ambulance.
You told us that you understood when you were arriving that this shooting had just happened. Do you recall at this point when the 911 call came in?
No, I don't remember specifics on the time. I think at 8:39 I was dispatched to it. And I would imagine the call for service came in a minute or two before that.
And approximately, do you recall how long it took you to get to the scene?
Probably 4 or 5 minutes.
We see more people walking up. Are you trying to stop the contamination of the scene by having more people walk in there?
Yes, I told the firemen kind of what was maybe in the house, and Officer Wiz was already in the house, and so we were just trying to control how many firemen went into the house.
So when you're the first on scene, are you trying to have the least number of people go in there as possible?
Yes,
Are you trying to not touch anything that's not necessary to be touched?
correct, yes.
Obviously, if fire's going to work on a person, they're going to have to contaminate it somewhat.
Yes.
Is that when we sort of see fire now leaving?
I couldn't, just from recollection, I couldn't answer that.
We see something in Officer Becky's hand. Is that the crime scene tape?
Yes. We do an inner and then an outer perimeter.
Is it normal for a patrol officer to have to stay with the individual who is the shooter and ensure that no one else is contacting them?
Yes.
So you don't want any of the neighbors walking up to them?
Correct. At this moment, I'm still basically fact-finding. I'm just trying to figure out what happened, when it happened, who was involved kind of thing. And yeah, I try to keep them separate.
At some point, do sergeants and others start arriving on scene?
Yes, that's my Sergeant Nacella.
When you have a scene like this where detectives are going to be called out, do all the different patrol officers provide their information that could be relevant to one person who can then brief the detectives?
Yes, I briefed my supervisor to let him know from my point of view what I know and what I was told. And then at some point, I think he would disseminate that to the detectives.
Okay. So is this you kind of telling him at this point what you've learned?
Yes.
And can we also see what the body camera looks like on the shoulder there?
Yes, he has the same type.
What made you decide that you needed to go over and talk to Lori Vallow?
Again, it's fact-finding, really. It's who are you? And when I say who, I always like to identify them by their Arizona driver's license because although my name is Robert, I go by Rob. So I don't want to assume her name is just Lori. It could be something specifically or longer. So I usually ask people for identification.
And that's so you can put that into your report appropriately.
Correct.
So we saw the ambulance leave. That means they didn't transport him.
Correct.
Did you learn that you actually couldn't cordon off this area the way you had initially thought because there was only one way out?
That is correct. We initially, as you can see, cordoned off part of the road so anybody couldn't just drive up to us. We later learned that's the only way that part of the neighborhood could actually exit the neighborhood. So we had to change the tape a little bit.
And then we see fire leave here as well. So now it's just police basically at the scene?
Police and I think a crime scene technician.
And are you still the only person responsible for making sure that no one is talking with Alex Cox?
I am.
Okay.
Is this where you go over to speak with Ms. Vallow?
Yes.
Is your husband with you or no? Oh, gotcha. Okay. You guys are all right.
You could turn up the volume.
Gotcha. Okay. Let me just get your. Do you have a driver's license with you? I can just grab it. Thank you. L-O-R-I. What does your middle initial stand for?
Noreen.
Noreen. N-O. V-A-L-L. What's a phone number for you, Lori?
808-755.
755?
5452.
You know, not in Santan. This is your home?
Right,
Gotcha.
right.
Okay.
We just moved in here.
Gotcha. How long have you guys lived here?
I'm sorry?
How long have you lived here?
Like 3 weeks.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Okay.
That's why the neighbors don't know us.
Gotcha.
Like, hi neighbor, sorry.
Are you working at all?
No.
Okay. And you still about 5'6", and 20?
Did you also get biographical information from the teenager?
I did.
Was that Tylee Ryan?
It was.
Let's stop it now. After you had talked with Alex Cox and Lori Vallow, did you go brief some of the detectives about what you had learned?
I did.
Did you tell the detectives that Lori Vallow did not know that her husband Charles was dead?
I told them that I did not advise her of such.
Okay. Did you believe that she did not know that her husband was dead?
I did.
Why did you believe that?
Well, I was under the understanding that this just happened. She just arrived back on scene, and I did not advise her of what happened in the house.
When you spoke with Alex Cox, did he provide additional information that made you believe that she was not present when the shooting happened?
Yes.
After you advised the detectives of this, did you then return and remain with Alex Cox for a significant additional period of time?
Yes.
Were you eventually asked to transport him to the police station?
I was.
Can you describe his demeanor during the transport?
Calm. Didn't ask. We just talked about things not related to this at all. Just a conversation between like me and you, just normal, average tone, calm.
And did you stay with him at the police station until a detective arrived?
Yes,
Did that end your involvement in this case?
it did.
I have no further questions.
All right. Cross-examination?
Can you pronounce your last name for me? I don't want to get it wrong.
Krautheim.
Krautheim.
Yes.
Yes? Okay, Officer Krautheim.
At the
correct?
time, yes.
At the time. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. You mentioned about Alex being calm when he exited the house. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then you were advised that he had told the 911 operator that he composed himself and then called 911. Is that correct?
I don't remember the compose himself, but I think he did.
But you stated in your report that Alex was very calm throughout the entire time talking with him, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the scene itself, was it chaotic?
No.
Were people running around screaming?
No.
Were people running in and out of the front door?
No. Correct.
Okay. And did you have a conversation on the way to the police station?
I did.
You did. And that's the second body cam we didn't watch, is that correct? That has your name on it?
Yeah, there's another body-worn camera we haven't seen.
Right, from the police car, I'm saying.
Yes, me driving.
You driving, but it comes from the car, not from the shoulder body cam, is that correct?
No, it comes from my body-worn
Oh, it was still
camera.
on your shoulder?
Yes.
Okay. And in that, did you have a conversation with Alex on the way to the police station?
Yes.
Objection asked and answered.
And did he express,
Hold on. When
Sorry.
there's an objection.
I'm sorry.
Wait for the ruling. I'll sustain the objection, but the answer will stand nonetheless. Go ahead. Next question.
did he express to you that he kind of fell out of it because he hit?
Hearsay?
Sustain.
When did you make your report about the incident on July 11th, 2019?
I think well, it was the end of my workday that day, but I stopped and started it numerous times throughout the day.
So did you finish it that day, or it still took a few days?
No, I finished at the end of my shift,
By the end of your shift, which was what time that day?
4 o'clock.
Okay. And did you make any revisions to that later on?
No,
So this is the only report that you made in regards to the day of July 11th, 2019?
it is.
You stated that there was red liquid on the rag towel that appeared to be blood. Did you think it was something other than blood?
Well, I had no way to test it, so I have to articulate it that way.
So he was bleeding from the back of the head
He was.
on the right-hand side.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. And then was it you on the body cam who briefed the detectives, Detective Moffett and Detective Inklin, in the front yard?
Yes, I made contact with him, yes.
And then you had told them basically what Alex had conveyed to you, what happened?
Yes.
And then what do they do with that information? Do they just put it into a report?
I don't know. You'll have to ask them.
Okay. So your report goes to who after you're finished with it?
I sent it to my supervisor.
And who was that at the time? Do you remember?
That was Bill Nacella.
Oh, the same one?
Sergeant,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. And then, did you speak to the case agent on this case regarding this incident on July 11th?
I did at the time. That's when I walked up to them at the front door area.
Okay. And was Detective Moffett the case agent at that time?
Yes.
Okay. And now it's Detective Duncan, as far as you know?
As far as I know, I don't know for sure, but that's what I've been told.
Okay. And how long do you think that you were at the residence? What was the whole time before you guys left to go to the police station? Do you remember? Do you recall?
I do not. It would be in my CAD history on when I transported him from the home to the PD, so I'd have to look at that, and I don't know. 40 minutes, half hour, 40 minutes, something like that.
Now, someone on the video, and I don't remember who it was, but put a phone into a evidence bag. Was that you?
I don't recollect that.
Okay. And then got into the car. Did someone ride with you to the police station from the residence? Just you and Alex were in the car?
Yes,
No other officers?
correct.
But before you got into the car, an officer came over and took his phone and put it in an evidence bag?
You're asking me from recollection. I don't remember that. It's probable because we usually try to bring their property to the area where we're going to, so it's probable.
I just didn't see it in your report, but I saw it on the body cam, so I wondered if you knew. Okay,
I'm going to object to the defendant testifying.
All right. Please only ask questions.
sure.
When you make statements about what you saw or heard, that's testimony.
I apologize, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
So it says in your report that you were asked by Detective Moffett to transport Alex to the police station not handcuffed. Is that correct?
Yes,
And to the downstairs interview room. I'm assuming that's at Chandler Police Department,
it is.
correct? Okay. And it was just the two of you in the car on the ride there?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Then, when you arrived at the police station, what happened next?
Walked him up to the room, had him sit down, or I think brought him some water, I think. And the detective was literally behind me. It wasn't very long before he walked into the room.
So then Detective Moffett took over and you were excused?
Yes,
Okay. And then was that the extent of your duty
it was.
at that time? And did you leave the police station after that?
Yes.
Did you stay and observe the interview?
No.
So Detective Moffett took over for you and you departed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You said when you spoke to Alex that he was cooperative. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is it possible he could have been in shock?
Objection, speculation.
Sustain.
From your observation, how long did the cut on Alex's head bleed? I mean, you were with him for that 40 minutes, and how long do you think it was bleeding?
Well, I couldn't answer that because I wasn't standing in the back of his head when I first made contact with him. So to be honest with you, I don't know when it started. So I don't have the minutes.
Did it appear to be bleeding when he exited the house, or no?
I didn't look at the back of his head right away when he exited the house.
When was the first time that you looked at it? About how long after he exited?
I can't answer time-wise, but it was during the time I had him seated at the sidewalk when I was talking to him.
Okay. Before he moved over or after?
Oh, after he moved over.
Okay. Did you ever enter into the house?
No.
You were just there in the front yard
Yes.
the whole time? Okay. When you talked to the two detectives in the front yard and gave them your synopsis of what had happened, you said they got into a domestic fight consisted.
Objection.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to sustain the objection.
What was the legal objection?
Hearsay.
Hearsay.
Oh, I was just reading his report. Okay.
Then objection, no question.
Please ask your next question.
You said in your report that at one point Alex's niece grabbed the bat.
Objection.
Hold on.
Hearsay.
That's
Improper
hearsay.
question.
Okay, you can't ask hearsay? Please ask your next question.
Did Alex tell you that he got hit in the head with the bat?
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay prior ruling.
Yeah, it's sustained. You can't ask questions of what Alex said.
So you observed that he had this bump on his head, but you didn't know how he got it. Is that correct?
No. That's not correct.
You did know how he got it. Is that correct?
I was told how he got it, which is different than me knowing how he got it, if that makes any sense.
Correct. You did not witness it, is what you're saying.
Correct.
But you knew that he had an injury to the back of his head on the right side.
I did.
Correct. Okay. And how did you obtain that information?
Your Honor.
You can't answer if it calls for hearsay.
Did you observe the next door neighbor come out in her nightgown to speak to me?
I did.
And then there was another neighbor on the other side that came out that you told him to go back into his house? Is that
I don't know if he was
correct?
a neighbor, but it was just some guy. Yeah. I assumed he was a neighbor.
Right. So they had blocked off the street so the neighbors couldn't really exit the neighborhood. They couldn't go to school or work, or it's kind of an issue there.
Not really. I mean, when one car told us the layout of the neighborhood, then we realized that was the only person that wanted to exit. They told us they couldn't exit, so we just fixed it so anyone else could leave.
Right. But they were trying to come up to me to find out what was happening.
Objection,
Okay.
speculation, hearsay.
I'll sustain the objection. Let's take our afternoon break for the staff and the jurors. We're going to take a 15-minute stretch restroom break. Please remember the admonition.
Just a couple more things. You mentioned that you briefed the detectives. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what did you tell them in that briefing?
Objection, hearsay.
Sustain.
Are his statements hearsay as well, Your Honor?
Any out-of-court statement is hearsay unless there's an exception under, or it's non-hearsay under the rules. So yes, his out-of-court statements are hearsay. Go ahead.
But you did brief the detectives before you headed to the police station? Is that correct?
I did.
And who was there? Do you remember?
Nate Moffett, Cassie, I think, my
That
sergeant.
Detective Inklin, I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt you.
No.
Oh,
And just off recollection, I think there was another one, but off of recollection, I don't remember.
and that was about how long before you left to go to the police station?
$10 minutes, maybe?
And how long do you think you were speaking with them?
Under a minute.
Under a minute
Yes.
for the briefing?
Yes.
Did you meet with the prosecutor to go over your testimony today?
I did.
When was that?
2 weeks ago, maybe?
How long did that meeting last?
Probably around an hour total.
Did you review this report before you came to testify today as well?
I did.
And it was not part of your duty to check anything in the perimeter. You weren't looking for evidence. You were just dealing with the shooter. Is that correct?
Well, not just the shooter, but scene management, making sure the resources were en route. But yes, managed.
What all does that entail, scene management?
Well, once we knew there was not a threat out, I instructed Officer Wiz to set up an inner and outer perimeter with crime scene tape.
What else?
Make sure I had a supervisor en route, and then manage the people that walked up to the scene.
Who was that supervisor en route? Do you know?
Bill Nacella, my sergeant.
How many people do you think came up to you at that scene?
Well, not up to me, but I instructed one gentleman that was walking on the sidewalk towards us. He needed to just leave the area. This didn't concern him. And then you and your daughter walked up to me, and I just asked you to go back to your car.
Did you have any conversations with your supervisor when he arrived?
I did.
When was that?
At some point between me arriving on scene and me leaving the scene.
Closer to arriving or closer to leaving? Maybe.
Chocolate milkshake says about halftime.
Okay. How long do you think that conversation was?
Well, you saw it on the body-worn camera, so a minute and a half maybe.
And he was just checking in with you to make sure everything was going well, that you were scene managing. Is that correct?
Objection, relevance, and hearsay.
Well, overruled, he can answer.
I was briefing him on what I knew thus far, what I was told.
And that was less than a minute?
Yeah.
Objection, asked and answered.
Sustained.
So it took less than a minute to brief him on everything that had happened that day so far?
Objection, asked and answered.
Sustained.
And it took less than a minute to brief the detectives as well of what happened that day?
An objection, asked and answered.
I'll allow that one. Go ahead.
Not what happened, what my portion was and what I knew happened.
So what you wrote in your report, basically, what you were told. Is that correct?
Yes.
So it took you 3 pages to write what you were told, but it took you less than a minute to discuss that with the detectives? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. How long was that transport from the residence to the Chandler Police Department?
In miles, probably 8 miles, 10 miles maybe.
How long do you think that took around?
10 to 15 minutes maybe.
And then where did you enter into the police station? Is there a garage or something?
I don't recollect where I parked. There's various areas you can park at the police department to access the area that I access, so I'm unable to answer. I don't know where I parked.
Okay, and you were able to walk Alex into the police station, is that correct?
Yes,
And he was unhandcuffed, is that correct?
correct.
And then you took him into an interrogation room, is that correct?
Yes,
And then Detective Moffett took over.
yes.
Okay. Just wanted to be clear. Okay. Did your supervisor, Nacella, did he come to the police station as well?
Not with me, nor did I talk to him. He might have, but I don't know.
You didn't see him there?
Correct.
Okay. But you saw Detective Moffett there?
Yes.
And you saw Detective Inkland there?
I don't remember Inkland. I just remember Moffett relieved me.
Okay. That's all I have, Your Honor.
All right, redirect.
Thank you. At the beginning of cross-examination, you were asked about Alex Cox's demeanor. Do you recall that?
I do?
And you had advised that he was nonchalant and calm, right?
Yes.
And you were asked whether or not you were nonchalant and calm too, correct?
Yes.
Had you just shot someone?
No.
You were asked if the firefighters were calm and nonchalant. Had they just shot someone?
As far as I know, no.
How about Officer Wiz? You said he was nonchalant and calm too. Had he just shot anyone?
No.
So it's not really exactly the same to compare you to the shooter, right?
Correct. I would not compare us.
When you went up to the scene, you had your gun drawn on him, correct?
Yes.
Still nonchalant and calm?
Yes.
You were asked a lot also about your nonchalant and calm appearance today in court. Are you stressed or just answering questions to the best of your knowledge?
The latter, just answering questions to the best of my knowledge.
You had to testify before?
I have.
You were asked about the injury to Alex Cox. We have seen the body-worn camera footage and we cut it off at some point. When Mr. Cox first came out of the house, he did not have his hand to his head, correct?
Correct.
You told us you didn't notice an injury at that point?
Correct.
When he first sat down on the curb before you moved him, did you notice an injury at that point?
I did not.
Was he touching his head at that point?
Recollection, I don't remember.
At some point in the video that we watched, did we see Alex Cox touch his head?
Yes.
When you were watching him, did you at times see him rubbing his head?
Yes.
The towel or paper towel or whatever that was in his hand, was that the only item you ever saw him using to rub or touch his head?
Yes.
Was it soaked or saturated in blood?
No.
Can we see it on the body cam that it's mostly white?
Yes.
So if we want to really know how long it was that he was seated before he touched his head, we could watch the time on the body cam, right?
Yes.
You were asked if you met with the prosecutor previously. When we met, did you have to watch that entire body cam?
Yes.
And is that when you actually initialed it, exhibit number 1 there, so that you would recognize it in court?
Yes.
You were asked about when you arrived and when you later transported Alex Cox to the precinct. Would looking at the CAD report help refresh your recollection as to when you had at least taken him to the precinct?
Yes.
If I could have my paralegal bring up the CAD report.
Go ahead.
Does that help refresh your recollection as to when you arrived back at the precinct with Alex Cox?
It does.
And when was that?
9:18 and 19 seconds.
And so the 911 call was at 8:36 a.m.?
That's when I received it. It could have come into the dispatch a few minutes earlier.
And you said you arrived, and we saw you on the body cam right after Officer Where's Biggie, who got there around 8:41?
Yes.
So you were with Alex Cox at the scene and talking to Lori Vallow and her daughter and doing those briefings in that 20, 30 minutes?
Yes.
No other questions, Your Honor.
All right, I see at least one juror question in a bin. If there are any juror questions, please pass them down at this time. Go ahead, the state has a follow-up
Just one question, and I don't know if the CAD will help you answer that. Do you know when you were finished with this call? What time it was when you were finished or released from this call and able to go back out?
It was probably 5 minutes after, maybe 10, probably 10 minutes. I probably used the restroom, to be honest with you, and got something to drink at the station, water. So maybe 10 or 15 minutes after the detective came in the room is when I hit the 10-8 button and I went and took other calls for service.
Okay, so you were done with this call before the end of your shift?
Oh, yes.
Okay, you didn't go back to the scene to help with scene security or anything like that?
No.
No other questions?